Bobiverse Book 3. All These Worlds. Part 1. Bob 1 is on a pigoid hunt with the Deltans. The Deltans succeed in killing the pig and are preparing it when another group of Deltans arrive. They threateningly ask Bob's group for their pigoid kill. The leader Fred threatens Bob and Bob hurls some choice insults at the Deltan. The leader tries to attack but Bob's mind is a computer, and he easily thwarts the primitive Deltan's attack. On Poseidon, Marcus learns from his friends that the Administrative Council is grabbing more power and has no intention of having an election. Howard goes on a date with Bridget and a young man makes fun of Howard for holding the hand of a woman who looks 20 years older than him. Bridget persuades him to let it go. Howard learns that Bridget's daughter has a big issue with her being around Howard who isn't human. Howard tells Bridget that if he is causing issues in her relationships then he can go away, but she insists that she can have a relationship with whoever she wants and no one else has a say. Bob and the Deltans set up a trap for the aggressive group. When the aggressive group attacks, 18 more Deltans step out and surround the aggressors. Fred tries to act tough, and Bob warns him that it will not go well for them if they go to war with him. Bill has finally gotten planets ready to be moved. It's an absolutely massive undertaking, but the planets can now accelerate to hundreds of Gs. 2 new clones, Daedalus and Icarus, escort the planets on their mission. Howard and Bridget go on another date, and this time Howard has updated the age of his Manny to match hers. They receive a call and unfortunately it concerns Colonel Butterworth, who has a degenerative brain disease that will make it impossible for him to become a replicant. He had also chosen to go out on his own terms and is now gone. Howard is devastated by the news, and it seems to him that everyone he gets close to eventually dies, and it makes him understand why many Bobs don't want to get close to people. Marcus uses a Manny for the first time to meet his friends. His friends want to start a full-scale revolution, however Marcus is hesitant because he knows what happens in revolutions. He convinces them to wait until he has revealed the floating cities. In a council meeting, Marcus announces the floating cities he has been building, and the council is incredibly angered because they want the people living and working on the mats rather than moving into more comfortable cities where the council will have less control. Marcus soon learns that the council are taking steps to prevent conspiracies against them. It seems that his little group of friends is being broken up and sent to different mats, and they are likely being monitored. Marcus finds listening devices in their home as expected. He gives his friends Scut communicators that will be completely untraceable by the council. The revolution has officially begun. Bridget's daughter Rosie confronts Howard and tells him that he should not be dating her mom. Howard berates her for butting into business that is not hers. Bob is off hunting by himself one day when his proximity alert comes on. Unfortunately, it is Fred and a few of his goons. Instead of fighting them, Bob hides and waits for them to go by. This pisses off Fred and he blames the others for losing Bob. Mario contacts Bill and tells him about more planets they have found that once had life, but the others had completely wiped out. Riker, who goes by the name, will now receive a call where he learns that Bob's descendant Julia has had an aneurysm and won't make it. Will borrows Howard's Manny and heads to Romulus to see her one last time. There's nothing they can do, and the funeral is held a few days later. Marcus officially brings the first floating city online and shows it to his fellow conspirators. Soon enough they'll have people on it and the council will know. Brittany takes Howard out with her friends in hopes of making Howard seem more human to people. In the Sol system, Will and the other Bobs have pretty much run out of metal to build colony ships. Without more colony ships it could possibly take over 500 years to get the remaining people off Earth, and none of the other Bobs are willing to take the time to build colony ships since they are building dreadnought ships to fight the others. The best option seems to be to build enough stasis pods to put all of the people in, but it will mean completely halting colony ship production and possibly mean cannibalizing some of the colony ships. Unfortunately, the humans are not willing to go for it since most will die on Earth waiting for stasis pods to be made regardless. Marcus has gotten the fourth floating city online and is trying to load people, but unfortunately the council is stopping the people from entering. Marcus uses transport ships to circumvent the blockade. A Bob named Mac arrives at 82 Eridni with 3 colony ships. The Bobs in the colony ships decide on names for the planets. The first they call Valhalla, and they stick with the Asgard theme and call the others Asgard and Jotunheim. When they wake the colonists, the Canadians choose Asgard and keep the name while the Japanese enclave chooses Jotunheim but decide to change the name to Takamagara. When the colonists begin to decant, they complain that Takamagara truly stinks, and on Asgard they complain that gravity is much worse than expected, along with a laundry list of other complaints. One of the first things that Mac has to deal with is gigantic mosquitoes on Asgard that are by far worse than those found on Earth. He creates mini-busters to deal with the problem. On Poseidon the council finally attacks. They seize the auto factories along with any resources they can get their hands on and lock Mark out of all of their systems. Then they attempt to blow him up, however they only get his decoy. After many attempts, Howard has finally created a drone that can survive in the Jovian planet's atmosphere and is able to explore. What he finds are blimp-like creatures that float in the atmosphere of the massive planet. Howard immediately shows his findings to Bridget, and since she is a biologist, she is immediately interested in seeing more. Howard brings her a set of VR equipment used in the 21st century for gaming. With that she is able to enter his VR. She is incredibly impressed and quickly starts looking through the data he has gathered, but then she realizes what Howard is doing. It's his way of trying to show her what being a replicant could be like. He thinks she is upset, but she doesn't seem to be. Bill and Mac are discussing the issues Mac is having with Valhalla and Takamagara when suddenly Mac disappears from the VR. Bill quickly finds a way to get into a roamer from Mac's ship and sees Medeiros in the system. Bill calls for other Bobs to help him, and the Bobs quickly find Mac's matrix intact. Soon enough Medeiros sends roamers to the disabled ship, and the Bobs have to fight them off long enough to destroy anything they don't want Medeiros getting his hands on. They manage to get Mac's matrix off of the ship and destroy anything Medeiros could use. The Bobs manage to win the fight, and Medeiros resorts to blowing the ship up with a missile. Unfortunately, Mac was the only Bob left in the system, and it will take many years for another Bob to be able to arrive, and the colonists are stuck with Medeiros. 2 Bobs named Herschel and Neil happen to find 2 derelict others ships that the others left behind in the Delta Pavoni system. One of the hulking ships is mostly intact. They explore it very carefully, expecting something to happen any second. As they explore, Herschel finds the power core, which is not a fusion reactor like theirs. This is new tech, and the 2 decide that they need to figure it out despite the risk. Howard received a call that he has dreaded for a very long time. Bridget has died, but to his surprise she has requested to be put in stasis, which indicates that she wants to be replicated. Howard calls the lawyer and finds out that the family intends to contest the will in court. They want their mother's body removed from stasis and not to be replicated. It will not be an easy legal battle, but Howard has hope that Bridget will live again. Herschel explores the massive others ship. It is over 10 kilometers long and 1 kilometer in diameter. The 2 decide to cut open one of the cargo bays, and when they get inside, they find one of the others' fighter ships. They begin to take it apart to see what they can learn from it. Eventually, after cautiously exploring the ship, they decide that they are ready to try and power it on. Bill has to explain to the colonists of Asgard and Takamagara the situation with Medeiros. After Medeiros figures out that they have denied him the ability to use the printers in the system, he decides to destroy the Bob's ability to use them as well. Since Mados has his own printer, this means that if he is left in the system, by the time they get there he will be too far ahead for them to do anything about him. As the Bobs discuss with the colonist what they might do, the colonist mentioned the mini-busters designed for killing mosquitoes. There are thousands of them, and they can be flown into space. They use the mini-busters to destroy Mados' busters, though it's not going to be quick or easy to get them all. The Bobs leave it to the colonists to finish doing as much damage to Mados' operation as possible. Marcus watches as a debris cloud expands and 3 cargo ships accelerate away. The council thinks he is dead, and this presents an opportunity for Marcus to surprise them. The council makes an announcement in which they try to force everyone to go back to the mats. Those on the flying cities are having none of it. Fortunately, the flying cities do have some defensive capabilities that the council didn't know about, but unfortunately one of the cities is taken out. Now that the council has used deadly force, Marcus is forced to play his hand. He uses busters and roamers to take out all of the council's assets, though the council members have gone into hiding. Herschel and Neil are ready to turn on the power core. They have cut all of the power cables in order to make sure that nothing except the power core comes on. They have not told anyone what they are up to, but they don't figure it matters very much since they are 8th generation Bobs. They turn the power core on, and it produces far more power than expected. They decide they need to tell Bill. When Bill hears about it, he's impressed but thinks they're idiots for having done it without telling anyone. They explain the power core, which seems to work off of the Casimir effect. Herschel then tells Bill what he thinks the ship is useful for. They could literally take the entire population of Earth in one go. On the planet of Eden, Bob sneaks up on Fred and puts a spear to his neck. Bob warns the Deltan that he will end him if the stealing doesn't stop. Bob discusses things with Archimedes and realizes that the problem might actually just be that the other village of Deltans don't have the resources or the knowledge to be effective hunters. They are stealing food because they can't get enough of it on their own. The court case against Brittany's family is very hard on Howard, but he's keeping in control. Unfortunately, the doctor brings up the possibility that the family could do something more than just attack legally. Bill learns that Mados is preparing to send solid metal ingots at one of the planets and they must act quickly to stop it. They barely have enough busters to take out the busters of Mados, so they also send 200 of the tiny busters. They successfully take out all of Mados' busters, and about half of the tiny busters strike Mados' ship. Mados' ship is adrift, and they decide to send drones with roamers inside to extract Mados' matrix. They arrive and the roamers invade Mados' ship, but Mados self-destructs rather than be captured. When it's all over, they manage to bring Mac back online, but it's going to be quite some time before they're back to full operation in the system. On Poseidon, the council attacks again, this time with version 3 heaven vessels. Marcus realizes that they need to be more secretive with their technology on BobNet. The attackers start trying to take the floating cities out of the sky. Marcus quickly activates some busters to intercept the heaven vessels. Several of the heaven vessels survive and they follow them back to the council's base. In the end, they manage to capture everyone involved. It will take some time to recover from the damage done, but it's a victory. Bill and Garfield create an Others power core prototype and it generates 5 times the power of the fusion reactors they are currently using. Will pops in and learns of the derelict Others vessel and how it can be used. A moot is called, and Herschel and Neil's project are the main topic. The two of them are now important and it's a lot more than they asked for. The moot turns quickly into a discussion of what they need to do in order to get all of the humans on Earth into the derelict ship they are now calling the Bellerophon.